the shooting range. In this episode, the IS-7, the story of an invincible tank that never got into production. How to play without any armor and still have tons of fun. We take a look at gameplay on our glass cannons. Hotline. The developers answer questions that you've left in the comments. But first, let's start with getting inside the new Japanese top tank, the Type 90. The update 1.79 Project X brought some joy to the admirers of the Japanese tank industry, thanks to the introduction of the Type 90 on Tier 6. This one was created in the 80s to stand up to the most powerful and modern Soviet tanks. How would it do that? Let's check it out right now. Of course, we start with the gun, which is the 120mm smoothbore L44 cannon that you might be familiar with if you've tried the German Leopard 2s. That means the tank has no problems with precision fire. Turret rotation speed is also quite decent, 30 degrees per second. The elevation angles aren't impressive though, only from -7 to +10 degrees, which is pretty bad compared to other tanks on this tier. But this is a small downside that is greatly compensated by the Type 90's advantages. First of all, the reload boosted by an autoloader only takes 5 seconds. It is the best reload rate on this tier. Second, you've got two types of shells, the Heat FS JM12A1 and the APFSDS JM33. The Heat FS1 is just like the German DM12, piercing up to 650mm of armor. As for the APFSDS, it pierces 520mm of armor from 500 meters. The fastest reload combined with the best APFSDS on this tier, nobody can survive this combo. As for the protection, the front of the tank is covered by a great composite armor that doesn't break under direct enemy hits. The turret is also capable of surviving a couple of shots, thanks to the blow-off panels. But then we look at the lower glacis plate, and there is pretty much nothing between the shot and the ammo. That is partly stashed right behind a simple piece of armor. One good shot here, and you're off. On the sides, there are only simple armor plates that will be pierced by every first good shot, and the crew consists of only 3 tankers. All of this means that you should be extremely cautious with your choice of position while taking fire, and use natural cover. So, what's going to help the T-90 survive on the battlefield? Firstly, its great speed and maneuverability. Here, the engine is as powerful as 2,500 horses, and it's capable of speeding this tank up to 81 km per hour in AB mode and up to 73 kph in RB mode. Your usual speed, though, will be around 50 to 60 kph off-road, which is still quite good. The reverse speed is also fine, 30 kph off-road, so you'll be quite able to quickly change position or turn your well-protected front to the enemy. Another advantage here is the hydropneumatic transmission that balances the poor elevation angles. And now let's see how one should play it. Firstly, try using your cannon as much as possible. You're great at cracking things up from the distance, and you reload like crazy, so the enemy often won't be able to react to the first hit, and the second one will already be flying towards him. All of that means that you'll be extremely successful ambushing people or fighting them from behind the front line, taking out several opponents in a row. In arcade, you should use your speed, your thick front, and all 8 of these smoke grenades that shoot out in groups of 4. For instance, they can help you capture a point at the beginning of a match. As for the realistic battles, here you'll be more useful next to the capture point, not actually on it. Shoot those who dare coming your way, and when you run out of targets, make your way to their flanks. Don't forget about the disadvantages of your armor. The Type 90 isn't the one to catch every enemy shot. Better be maneuverable and flank the opponents than become a dead man on the front line. And if you're face to face with the enemy, don't let him see your sides, and use your quick fire rate to kill him dead. And now, let's go to the USSR and remember the story of our Operation Summer hero.
It's hard to describe my feelings with actual words. At the speed above 60 kph, this heavy machine still easily reacts to the most subtle pushes on the levers and pedals. The gears switch with only one small lever, and the machine is absolutely obedient to the driver.
Those are the words written by the chief tester of the Soviet Ministry of Transport Engineering in 1948, after they'd tried out the prototype of the new heavy tank, the IS-7. Other members of the commission left pretty much the same reviews after witnessing how this tank could destroy any type of foreign machines while being far away from their reach. Moreover, it was as fast as a middle tank. They all agreed that Object 260, as they called it at the time, was the best in the world, and no Western opponent could catch up with it. This was exactly the goal of its creators, Yosef Kotin and Nikolai Shamshurin. By the way, he was the one to invent and assemble the first torsion suspension. This machine combined the experience of construction, maintenance, and combat use of heavy tanks all over the world during the wartime. Some of the solutions for Object 260 were used in the Soviet tank industry for the first time, and the machine still kept a traditional layout. There were major changes in the chassis, and the weapon got an automatic aiming system. The gunner only needed to pick the point, and the stabilized cannon would just aim by itself. Then there were some improvements that were already tested in the USSR. For example, they had installed the 170mm S-70 cannon, a diesel 1050 horsepower engine, and a shell conveyor that decreased the fire rate to 8 shots per minute, still with additional help from a second gunner. Needless to say that this tank's armor could hold a punch from literally any ground-based cannon and had 8 additional machine guns, all of which were controlled remotely. And if anyone dared to say this wasn't enough, there were already plans for the next modifications, with an added AA autocannon. And this super powerful and super protected beauty didn't get into production. Why? Well, the most common explanation is that in both the USSR and the USA, everybody had already realized that the time for heavy monsters had passed. So they started creating universal middle tanks. Moreover, the HE shells were becoming more and more advanced, and way faster than any armored protection systems. But at the same time in the USSR, they took the heavy IS-4, the T-10 aka, and the IS-8 into service. War theoretics kept developing new ways of combat use for the heavy machines. There had to be another reason. And here it is. An exclusive theory for the viewers of the shooting range. Perhaps the problem was in the new materials and alloys in the IS-7 that also were not yet mass-produced. In this case, the cost of this tank would have been colossal, but apart from assembling the machines, they needed to set up new infrastructures, develop and create accessory tech, and a ton of other useful things. Anyway, Years of work never got wasted, as the ideas for the IS-7 were used multiple times in newer Soviet machines, and some of them are quite topical even now. And now let's talk about having fun when you don't have a lot of armor to protect you. A lot of War Thunder machines have powerful and very effective weapons, but their defenses are far from perfect, especially at the given BR. And not only on the sides, but even on the front, which means these glass cannons are great when it comes to killing everybody, but they can't survive under fire. Basically, you can't make any mistakes while playing these. Well, how could anyone have fun then? The obvious answer is always use your prevailing firepower. Your cannons will always penetrate the enemy on the same BR, from basically any angle you want. But you need to be precise. Either try one-shotting everybody, or at least take out their barrels or crew members so they can't return fire. Really, the glass cannons are great for training your marksmanship skills. And it's not only about the gameplay style. Usually, the weapons on these tanks have great ballistics. Don't forget to study the specifics of your machine before the fight, as the glass cannons can be both speedy tanks with turrets or a lot slower tank destroyers. Naturally, the tactics on these will be different. The more agile ones can constantly change positions, strike unexpectedly, and quickly vanish behind some cover. Even better if they have smoke shells or grenades. Then they're able to disorient the opponent, calmly evaluate the situation, and pick a new direction for another attack. If agility isn't your strongest suit, then the most important thing for you is a wise choice of position. In this case, this is how your ideal working place looks like. The view of the crucial points of the map, preferably with capture points in it, good shooting angles, cover for most of your hull, and lastly, some kind of natural disguise. If you've found such a spot, congratulations. You and your powerful gun will have a great time together, killing loads of the enemy. By the way, this is exactly the place where you could benefit from using the decorators, and if your position has been compromised, retreat and look for another one. Anyway, on any glass cannon you need to be very careful. Don't forget that any opponent on your BR will easily pierce you from whatever side he likes. Moreover, even the light AA guns and heavy caliber machine guns can be a problem for you. So don't rush to the front line ahead of your teammates. While attacking, keep somewhat behind the main forces and shoot the most careless enemy. In the fight, hide your hull behind, well, anything you can find, and if you're able, maneuver like your life depends on it. Because it actually does. Also, don't mess with Lady Luck picking more than one enemy in close combat at once. You won't survive this encounter. And finally, try keeping closer to your more protected mates, supporting them with your gun, damaging critical parts of their opponents, and getting assist kills. This will probably be the most useful gameplay for your team, and the most enjoyable one for you. Get ready for the traditional last part of our show, Hotline. Developers answering questions from the comments. The first question comes from a user called Chikurn. Can't you tell the tale of the SMK? I would love to know who the drunk Soviet who invented it was. The SMK is actually another work of the prominent Soviet armor design engineer called Yusuf Yakovlevich Kotin. He led the design of some of the KV tanks, IS tanks, T-10, Su-152, and many, many more. Not sure if he drank it all. As for the tale of the SMK, yeah, we might. Blidarul Stefan writes,
I've always have wondered how your guy's doing, like financial business. How's it going? Have you got the funds necessary to keep this game going? Is the player base increasing or decreasing?
Hi mate, thanks for your concern. All the funds we have are there thanks to our players after all. Player base numbers are rather steady, and we do pretty well after all these years, not to mention that we've even higher hopes for the time when naval battles and World War are released. Another question today was sent in by Katarish Tasa.
Hey, mighty snail, will you add working anchors to the ships and boats?
Nope, we don't see much use for them in the current version of gameplay. There's a cute anchor decoration, though. Then there is a very serious request by a player called Swaglife.
Hey, bros, can you make a ringtone?
Are you sure you want that? Okay, then. Here you go.
Brucey here, you got a call coming in.
Well, that's it for today, but feel free to write your questions in the comments below. We do read them all. And you might see some of them answered in the next episode. If you like what we're doing, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. See you on the shooting range.